to you. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Cathy, and thank you so much for having me on the show this morning.
A lot of the focus, of course, has been on the bigger parties, your ANC, your DA. What must this coalition government look like? It doesn't seem a lot of attention is being paid to what parties like Bosa and others that do have a stake, in all of this, but perhaps didn't have as strong a showing as the other parties. What it is that you have to say?
No, absolutely. I think one of the things that's important to reflect on and to think about, even as we consider what this parliament will look like, what the seventh parliament will look like, is how smaller parties have contributed in the past in South Africa and in other parts of the world. And I think when you look at some of the reforms that we've seen, electoral reforms that we've seen, some of them have been driven by smaller parties. You look, for instance, at electoral reform in this country and the role that parties with 2 seats, 1 seat have played in getting us to where we are as it pertains to electoral reform. And it's important to consider the influence and significance of smaller parties. Smaller parties can also influence with their votes. They can provide swing votes in important decisions in parliament. And there's just various other ways that smaller parties can have significance in parliament. And so that's important. And I think even more important to note is the number of small parties and new parties that we have that can form a bloc and actually have quite a significant voice in parliament. I know for us, we play quite a centrist role and hold a centrist position. And there's a couple of other parties that we're talking to and collaborating with in parliament. So we have no doubt that our presence in parliament is going to be significant. We have no doubt that we're going to play a significant role in this seventh parliament.
Do you feel that your voices, your views are being drowned out, right? And I hear what you're saying about the smaller parties talking about forming some kind of voting bloc. But as things stand, the ANC has 40.18% of the vote, right? So if all of the parties who are in opposition, at least in the traditional sense of opposition parties, if all the opposition parties were to come together right now, they would be able to kick the ANC out of government. But that doesn't seem to be what is happening. Why is that not happening? And the divisions that exist within the opposition parties, what is behind that division?
So, I think it's early days, and unfortunately, we only have 14 days to constitute government in South Africa, and I think that's something that does need to be reviewed. These are some of the things that we have to put on the table for review. But it is early days, and there are conversations happening, and what you say as a possibility is something that isn't being spoken about enough. I think at this point, I think we're focused on what has been the established players and their existence, and we're not speaking enough about what could happen if the newer players and the smaller players all came together with the more established opposition parties to form a government in South Africa. What has been clear is that South Africans are tired of what we've experienced with the ANC. I think that's been clear. It's been clear from the vote. And I think that it's been clear from, even the narrative and the engagements that we certainly have had with South Africans. And so I think that that is a possibility that should be explored more. It is a possibility that should be spoken about more and analyzed more. And we should be hearing through media and even with civil society, more of that engagement about that scenario, what it would look like if the opposition came together and we had true change. Because as it stands now, you have parties that have governed. The ANC has governed the Western Cape, the DA has governed in the Western Cape. And we can't quite say that as South Africans, we have been fully satisfied with what we've seen. And so if we want change, that is an option and a scenario that we must consider. And I think that we need to give more space to and more engagement on.
Is it not something that you as parties should be driving? Because that's where the conversation starts, right? So if we look at even just this ANC-DA coalition, it was triggered, of course, on Sunday, when the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, talked about how they're willing to speak to the ANC. Fikile Mbalula comes out to confirm that, well, we're willing to speak to everybody. And then we know it results in a meeting of the ANC's negotiation team with the DA's negotiation team. Yes, they've met other parties, but the point is that that is part of what also adds and builds the story. So are you, as political parties, driving the conversation in that way? Are you meeting? Have there been conversations? Are there teams that are actively working out these conversations?
Absolutely, Cathy. I know I can only speak for ourselves in this sense, but as Bildwane say, we are having conversations with other parties. We are looking at how potentially a different picture would look like, and how potentially the opposition parties working together would look like. What is critical in the conversations that we're having and what we're talking about is, how do we ensure that, first of all, we have a stable government? What would it look like in ensuring stability? What would it look like in ensuring that, and this is important, that you maintain an opposition voice that does hold government accountable? So whatever the picture looks like, we still need to be able to say, how do we then make sure that we're holding each other accountable and that we're held accountable as government should we work together in that sense? And those are the important things. But the conversations are happening. We are in conversation with various parties and looking at how it would work, even if it's not the scenario that you are talking about now. But as opposition parties, how would it look like if we work together, and what is the way that we could consolidate and collaborate to work together even outside of the ANC?
Let me bring into this conversation Mighty Mabule, who's the spokesperson of the United African Transformation. And of course, they are a party that has gotten one seat. You've got one seat in the National Assembly, Mighty. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Cathy, and thanks for inviting me.
One of the things that we have been discussing with Nobuntu is the extent to which you, as parties that have a smaller stake when it comes to representation in the National Assembly, you've got a smaller portion of the vote. It seems that you've been relegated to the benches in this conversation of coalition government. You're not featured anywhere. Nobody seems to care what you have to say, at least within the formal conversations. But, perhaps there are things that are happening that we're not aware of. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to the listeners. And we say Kanimambo. They always say dynamite comes in small packages. They always say dynamite comes in small packages. And the one that will end up making maximum impact, in most cases, if you look at some historical developments, usually are the people that have been ignored for quite some time. So it's intentional somehow. But yes, we got one vote, and it does not mean we don't have power, we don't have influence. The essence of leadership is influence. We understand where we are now. South Africans have actually indicated the confidence that they have in our organization, and we are going to the national parliament with a clear mandate of actually saving the people, of making sure that the people see it as an alternative. And because we are leaders, and the essence of leadership is influence, we're going to influence even the bigger players to take the direction, because everyone is aware that after 30 years of democracy, things are worse. Unemployment is still very rampant, poverty is rampant. So our understanding is that whoever is in parliament, even those smaller parties, what they have in their mind is that the life of an African did not change. So we need to join hands and move forward. So our one vote is like one seed. You get one seed that can germinate and produce more trees.
So in this moment, and in the context of needing to form a government, what is the influence that you would say you're having right now? the conversation seemed to be, around ANC, DA, MK, EFF, IFP, maybe Patriotic Alliance, maybe Freedom Front Plus, maybe Action SA, because those are the parties that have gotten a bigger portion of the vote. So where would you say your voice has featured now? What kind of coalition government do you think is going to work for South Africa now, that you're championing, that you're supporting? Because you're right when you say that one seat is going to matter when it comes down to voting in the National Assembly, electing a speaker, electing a president for this country.
Yes, I think one thing that are still following processes internally in terms of the coalition partners, the direction that we're taking. I'm not sure if you're aware that we're one of the parties that actually raised objection. The over 520 objections that IEC confirmed that have been raised were part of this organization. So we've been, working around there to ensure that democracy really is in motion, really democracy is matured. So in terms of coalition, yes, it's still a matter that we're looking into because we need to sort out 1, 2, 3 things in terms of results and so on. But now, from an organizational point of view.
Okay, so just to clearly understand what you're saying, are you saying that because you are waiting on the IEC to finalize the objections that you have raised, you're sort of holding back on coalition conversations because you are confident that the outcome of the vote might be different to what it is?
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying while working on the IEC objections and processes, internally we're also having a conversation because you don't stop thinking process.
Yes.
Thinking is continuous. So it's one thing that we're also looking at it on the side. But we are not in a better position to communicate that to the public. So it's a parallel. These processes are going parallel, so that by the time we have to participate in coalition discussions, we are not actually late. But it's just still premature for us to be saying that. But now,
those conversations are taking place now,
and we are part of those conversations. It's that we can't say it on air. I'm not saying we're not part of the conversations. Yes, I'm saying as much as we're dealing with IEC, Cathy, we're also part of the conversation, but not ready.
What conversations are you part of?
We're part of the conversations internally in the organization in terms of making sure that we're aligned in terms of the leadership. Yes,
but where South Africans need to know. Do your voters not need to, do they not deserve to know? Do they not deserve that transparency? I mean, for the people who voted for you, you've got about just around 35,000 people above that voted for you. Do those people not deserve to know who you're having conversations with?
They deserve that, but they deserve quality communication. They deserve quality answers. They deserve thought leadership. They deserve intelligent way of doing things. Those fundamentals define progressive leader. But if you can just rush because the country is taken to that direction without thinking, that is not leadership. Leadership is about planning. Leadership is about critical analysis. Leadership is about making a decision that is informed. And the decision is informed if you have actually communicated with the party structures and the same members that need answers. So I'm not saying we're sleeping, Cathy. I'm saying we're preparing, we're talking to leaders, we're talking to our members, and we're going to announce soon. It says that I cannot announce now. If you're pushing me to announce now, it's not possible. But the conversation for the coalition are continuing. So we're ready. Members, relax. We're going to give you quality information. Now, in terms of the question that you asked.
Just hold that thought. We're going to continue the conversation in a moment. It's 10:30. It's time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning. In the headlines, City of Cape Town authorities say flooding has occurred in a number of areas as inclement weather is being experienced across the Western Cape. Former ANC Deputy Secretary General and veteran leader Cheryl Carola says the ANC and DA must work together following the national elections, as they are the two parties who received the most votes. And the United Nations Refugee Agency says it's profoundly concerned by new asylum restrictions. President Joe Biden announced 4 migrants entering the United States illegally from Mexico. I'll have details on these and other stories at 11.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 18 rand 76 to the dollar, 23 rand 97 to the pound, and 20 rand 41 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mainly weaker at the closing bell. The JSE is mainly higher in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe have extended gains. Gold is trading at $2,332, platinum $994 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $77.69 a barrel.
When my son was accepted for national championships, I wasn't prepared for the costs. Then I remembered that Cash Converters has a 30-day cash advance loan. Just go to your nearest Cash Converters store with your jewelry, electronics, tech, or something valuable. They'll keep it safe for you and you'll walk out with the cash you need. This loan made it possible for my son's dreams to come true. Now I'm a proud mom of a champion. Cash Converters. We buy, we sell, we loan cash.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two of the most thrilling fighting talents to have emerged from the Mother City in recent years, Tamelo Manyamala and Terrence Bolelo, put everything on the line to face each other for the interim flyweight title, which guarantees a shot against the currently unavailable champion Nekazimulu Zulu later in the year. Also, Ayanda Zwane and Sibarashe Akonya fight for number one contendership. EFC 114 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
Talk to us about the early signs, because for me, the issue lays in, why did you feel guilty?
Exactly. It's almost normal and normative to... Food has no emotion connected to it. So guilt and shame and overwhelm and anxiety around food, those are big warning signs for us to really ask what is going on and why is this relationship with food tainted with emotions. I mean, we're happy when we eat, or it's just a normal thing that happens in our life. It's not supposed to be guilt or emotions.
That was Marlene Vandenberg, who is with Netcare's Akiso Montrose Manor.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
In an election period, isn't that how it should be? Meaning that they've set the agenda on the basis of their manifestos, and then media holds them accountable to their manifestos.
So I think that what you want to do, especially as the public broadcaster, is say, what are the issues that matter to people? What do people know and what do they need to know? Because they're making choices about which political parties they may vote for, right? When I say that the political parties set the news agenda so they'd go have big events, understandably so. But is it really news? Rallies are rallies. Each leader is going to stand up and tell you how great they are and how rubbish all the other political parties are. It's not really much news, whereas we should have been going, well, gender-based violence, can we make sure that we ask them at least one gendered question? These are issues that are important to our audiences. And if you look at the kind of issues that people are interested in, so that we can actually start to make sure that we're meeting their needs in these ways.
Okay. William Bird, Director of Media Monitoring Africa.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on the Talking Point. We are speaking to those parties that are new to the National Assembly. What are they going to be bringing? Of course, there are lots of new faces that you can anticipate seeing. We're in conversation this morning with the Deputy Leader of Build One South Africa, Nobuntu Klazu-Webster. You've already heard from her. You'll continue to hear from her in a moment. And Mighty Mabule, who's the spokesperson of the United African Transformation. So, Mighty, before we went to news, you were telling us about your party's position stance on the current conversations around coalition government. So, is there a direction you prefer? What approach do you actually take? Because again, you are a player. You have a stake. It might not be a big stake, but you have a stake.
Look, let me indicate what we stand for as the party. And our standpoint will give an indication to the listeners in terms of the type of coalition partners that we're going to, that we can actually go with, if that happens. But the reality of the matter is that our 30 years of democracy did not bring dignity to our people. For as long as you have a government that does not put the issue of land at the center of economic activity, you run the risk of becoming impertinent. Because land is dignity to an Africans. Land is economy. Land is prosperity. Land is development. You cannot talk about changing the lives of the people without talking about the issue of land. And remember, when we talk land as a resource, it includes our tourism sector. It includes our manufacturing sector. It includes our forestry. It includes our mountains. It includes our oceans in terms of the ocean economy, fishery, and so on. So whoever wants to speak to us must understand where we stand, because we are saying land must go back to the people. Land has been stolen. Land is the dignity of an African. Please come to us with that in mind, that we want Africans to be in control of their own land. We want Africans to participate in the mainstream of the economy. It cannot happen that after 30 years of democracy, you still have mines that are benefiting the white minority and foreign investors. If you look at the mines in Sekhukhune area alone, in Limpopo, you speak about 30 operational mines that are generating billions and billions, but go and look at the area. Water is still a challenge. Electricity is still a challenge. Unemployment and so on and so forth.
So that means that you are then likely to support a DA, or rather an ANC coalition that goes in the direction with the EFF, the PAC, the IFP, and all other more leftist-leaning organizations?
Not yet on the names, but on the philosophy, on the thinking of the program. If anyone see what we are doing or what we stand for as a political party in terms of the issue of land ownership and land utilization, which will give birth to a clear, structured and progressive industrialization program and agricultural program, then you can talk to us. But if you come to us and tell us about the property clauses and so on, we cannot move, food security will be a challenge. So food security becomes a challenge only when Africans own their own resource. So we don't subscribe to that. Okay. But in terms of names of parties, as I've indicated, the leadership is actually looking at that, and then they'll actually pronounce that when the time is right.
Nobuntu, earlier you described Bosa as being more centrist. So in the conversation then around a coalition government that needs to be formed, what would you support?
I think for us, what we want to see is we want to see a balancing of some of the extremities that we have. So we want to see a balance of states, economically, for instance, we want to see a balance of state intervention in righting some of the inequalities of the past, but we also want to see markets thriving in this country, and we also want to see business thriving in this country, but we want to be able to know that we are equipping South Africans, particularly South Africans that were previously marginalized, to be able to participate in that economy, as an example. So what we want to see is a balancing of, the ideologies that sit more to the left, more to the right. We want to see a balancing of those ideologies for transformation in this country and to serve the people of this country. And I think to our previous conversation, one of the things that I'd wanted to add is that we don't, and right now, this is you and I talking about a government that would be formed. And that's the conversation that is being had the most. But we don't speak enough, nor do we engage enough on the importance of an opposition government in holding government accountable. We don't speak enough about the importance of opposition in making sure that the executive performs. We don't speak enough about the importance of opposition in introducing new policy. And so even, in our centrist approach and in our centrist positioning, that's what's going to be important in holding government accountable to make sure that they are delivering for the people of South Africa and making sure that the voice of South Africans is represented. And even as we have engagement with other parties, we're trying to make sure that we are with parties that we can do that with in a significant way.
Nobuntu, I'm going to ask you in very simple terms. Which
Which party?
yes, which partners, which coalition partnership is a partnership that you as Bosa would support right now? I've heard you on the centrist and etc., but let's make it simple for everybody. Where does that leave you?
So, in terms of what we want to see as a coalition government, there are various scenarios that are at play, Cathy. And I think you know that it's not a conversation that you can simply say, we would prefer to see this party with that party or this party with that party. You have to look at the various scenarios that are at play and that are being discussed and that are being engaged upon. Mm-hmm. And we have to engage that internally as those come to us and as we become aware of those as a party. And we have to decide what we would support. At this point, we have not made a decision about which coalition we would support. We are simply engaging with various parties. We are simply watching what is happening as well. And having our own discussions about what should we support, what would work for us, what would work for what we've said we want to deliver to the people of South Africa. But we're not at a position yet where we have said, this is the coalition that we would support, or these are the parties that we would support if they were then, that we would get behind and support if they were in government. We haven't reached that point yet as a party.
Mighty, this takes me back to what I said earlier, that one gets the sense that for parties like yourselves, at the end of the day, you're really going with decisions that have been made. I know you say that you influence and you're talking and all of that jazz, but when it comes down to the wire, it seems like you're just going to pick left or pick right.
At face value, it looks like that. At face value, it looks like that. But you cannot be a party that represents over 35,000, over 100,000. Remember, there's IEC irregularities and discrepancies. So don't only limit it.
Okay, but let's deal with that, right? Mm. When it comes to the irregularities, the elections are declared if the IEC believes that whatever disputes are not yet dealt with will not have a material effect on the election result. So let's not overstate that material effect, unless you are saying that with your objections you have presented evidence to the IEC of hundreds of thousands of votes that could swing what the outcome of this election is. And those are two different things.
Yes, because the matter now is going through the legal processes. I cannot really comment much on it. You know the law. You know the law. So
no,
I can't be.
Yes, you can. Sub judice does not mean that you cannot talk about it. That's not what that means. And you are not a legal representative involved in the matter. So actually, sub judice does not apply in this instance. So if you are saying, and it is important that what you're alluding to, you're clear about it, right? Because you do have a matter that is before the IEC in terms of the objection. But the point I'm making is also a valid one around what is the material difference. So if there was an inaccuracy in let's say, vote counting around a district, the IEC does not announce results if it believes that where it has assessed and looked at all the objections, if it believes it won't have a material impact, material bearing on the result, then it goes ahead and announces. So with your objection, what is your objection?
Look, as I've already indicated, Cathy, I won't be able to go into detail in terms of the objections, but what I can tell you...
But why not?
No, it's fine. I understand where you are coming from as a journalist, as a reporter. I understand the chair that you are sitting, and also understand the chair that I'm sitting. We raised objection, we submitted, and I have proof where there's some of the results slip where the number was erased. That is fraud. Now, if the IEC is saying out of 529 objections, they don't make sense to South African, and in those objections you have fraudulent activity, that's a serious crime.
Well, I
So-
don't think they have not said that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but if it makes sense, why don't you listen to over 20 parties that represent South Africans? Why don't you take into consideration the fact that the element of free and fair principle is compromised?
Okay, so based on your own objections, when you then tally the numbers, how many votes do you believe you lost out on?
Yeah, unfortunately, that question is a question that I cannot answer now.
Why not?
No. I don't want to contaminate.
But you're the one that is you're the one that is raising the objections.
Yes, I'm
You're
raising
saying that
objections.
you've been robbed.
And
and I'm asking you of how many votes?
Raising objections and directing them to the relevant parties, which is IEC and the legal
of
processes.
how many votes?
No,
We deserve to know. It's a matter of public interest. We
It's
deserve
a matter
to know.
of public interest, but timing is very much important in leadership because you might contaminate the processes. Otherwise, I'm not a leader if I can just rush into any river and swim without establishing whether that river is
if that's
crocodiles or not.
Okay, well then, if that's the case, then at this point, because you're not willing to disclose, then it's actually not fair for you to then say that, well, the outcome that we have of the vote, in as far as UAT is concerned, is questionable because you're not even willing. If your objection is around 5 votes, it doesn't make a difference.
And it's not around 5 votes.
It's
more than
around
that.
how many votes?
No, it's around the number that IEC knows because they've done those discrepancies. Let's respect the legal process. This is a constitutional democracy, Katie. There's legal processes.
Vusimuzi, you're calling us from KZN. Good morning, Vusimuzi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Katie. And I sympathize with those parties. But for the interest of the country, I will just ask them just to put the interest of the country first, though we do sympathize with them, because every party can come up with a complaint and objection, even those major parties and the small parties. Everyone, I think they are not all satisfied, but for the interest of the country, my brother, there will be a next election. We'll try our best, please, for the interest of the country. But my point, Katie, is about the land. The land. You see, I've just heard so many political parties talking about the land, but they are talking about the returning of the land to the rightful owners, which is mostly the black people. But they are not talking about how are we going to equip our people, how to maintain the land, how to work the land, how to make the land productive. But they are talking about the land. And I know many people where government has given them the land and they sold that land. And even the houses where government has built them the houses, they just sold those houses. But for me, I would like, Sisketi, if maybe we can have a proper discussion about there are people who are the farmers. Even the black farmers, they are not equipped enough to work the land. How much more ordinary people like me, if you give me the hectare, maybe 5 hectares, I don't know anything about how to work the land, how to make the land productive. I think there we are missing what you call, because 50% of our people, they've got the land, but they don't know how to work it.
Okay, Vusimuzi, thanks for raising that view. It's an important point to make. I'm going to take a couple of WhatsApp voice notes. It'll lead us into a break, and then I'm back with our guests and, of course, your calls. I'll give them an opportunity to respond.
Sisketi, the only actual proof that we have seen of irregularities or something fishy that's happening on the ballot papers and with the not ballot papers, the VD list of parties where the party agents are signing. It's only EFF and Freedom Front Plus. The rest are just bluffing. Can't the transparency ikai? Where is transparency? What are they going to give us once they're in power? These people who just claims there's something, but they do not get to show us what it is. So They themselves are not even transparent, yet they want us to believe them. Let them go, man.
Good morning, Cathy. Look, the fellow that has got 35,000 votes, he's got no business saying that people must come and speak to him. He should be going out and speaking to the guy so that he gets in there, because he's got one seat. His people expect him to go be part of the talks, be able to influence his land position within, not necessarily to wait and say they must talk to me. He's only got one vote, one seat in parliament. So he should humble himself, go to the people, whether it's DA or whoever, speak to those guys. He talks about leadership being about influence. Be able to influence the guys so that they're able to see it from his perspective, so that the land issues can be resolved. So it's no longer about the time saying people must come to me, they must sit according to ourselves. Nobody's got time for those things now. It's a matter of the guys that are willing to speak to each other, the ability as leaders themselves to influence each other so that they can see it from one lens. Not this thing, people must come to me, must talk. No. The land issue will not be resolved like that. You are in parliament with that particular one seat. Go to the guys, want to become part of government so that you can influence from inside.
Good day, Sis Cathy. To your case, it doesn't want to tell the country who are they having talks with. It's so sad, Sis Cathy, because I voted party C. I didn't want to vote party A and B because of my reasons. Now they are having talks. Let's say now I voted him in. He's having talks with party A or B, of which I never voted for them. So he doesn't want to tell us I didn't vote those parties for a reason. I voted for them because of a reason. So I'm failing to understand why he can't tell us who are they talking to. And this thing of coalitions is I don't understand it, because before they decide on going to coalition with party, they should come back to the masses, hear from the masses, because we voted them in. We didn't want to vote party B or C. We voted them in.
The clock is on a downhill towards the world's most prestigious games, with a wide variety of exhilarating action such as aquatics, athletics, gymnastics, boxing, breakdancing, football, and many more. The 6th of June marks 50 days to the Olympics. The world's elite athletes are all eyeing a podium finish. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes. Experience the Olympic Games Paris 2024 from Friday 26 July until Sunday 11 August. Live on SABC TV channels and SABC radio stations. SABC Sport is the official broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. For the love of the game.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, we continue the conversation. On the line, Nobuntu Hlazo-Webster, Deputy Leader of Build One South Africa, and Mighty Mabule, a spokesperson of the United African Transformation Party. Nobuntu, let me come to you very briefly. If you can just respond to some of the issues raised by our listeners so far. I do still have lots of other callers that are waiting to get on the line, so keep it as brief as possible for me.
I think in response to what the callers would say, what I would say is what's most important for us and what we've put as important for us in our role is, one, being a unifying force that doesn't put our party interests first, but puts the interests of South Africans first. I'm listening to everything I'm hearing and, some of the concerns even around coalition formations and some of what has failed. So we've seen that the multi-party charter has failed and has collapsed. And what is at the center of that is parties putting their own interests first before the interests of the collective and before the interests of South Africans. And so even as these engagements are happening and, there's almost an obsession around, why don't you form part of the government? How are you, who are you supporting, and how will you be part of the government? I don't, and I'm going to repeat this, I don't think we pay enough attention to the importance of the work of opposition and the work of unifying to make sure that we do hold government accountable.
Okay.
And that is important. And so even in our own conversations and engagements that we're having internally and with other parties, that becomes what's most important, because that's what the South Africa needs at this point, to make sure that we're holding government accountable, to make sure that even in decisions that can change the trajectory for South Africa, our vote, those 2 seats count in making sure that that does happen.
Okay. Mighty, briefly for me, please.
Okay. Let me start with the first caller around the issue of South Africans can get land, they don't know what to do, and so on. Yes, that's exactly the failure of the current or the previous administration. That's exactly the failure where land has been given, where pieces of land has been given to people, but people not being capacitated. I mean, we all know that one of the best oranges in the world were coming from Zebediela, but go and look at the plantations now. It's finished. It's no longer producing that because the timing, the manner in which the issue of land was handled was wrong. But from United African Transformation, we're actually saying we're not going to just give you land before we're sure that you are capacitated. You have the resources. You have the tractors, you have everything. So the caller is very correct. We don't just come with a very blank approach of saying, let's just give people land. No, we have a strategy. We have a plan to ensure that our people have capacitated, our people have resources. Land Bank has been established to champion development of farmers, but now Land Bank is another commercial bank. We'll make sure that our farmers are able to get resources to operate on that. The issue of EFF Plus and Freedom Plus is the only two parties that submitted, a quality complaint. So out of 26 parties, they only see two. I have a proof I can show you after the show where there's a fraudulent act on our documents. So I don't know where the IEC official is coming from. Maybe he was conducting other elections. Yeah.
All right. Let me go to Ngobi. Ngobi, you're in KZN. Good morning.
Cathy, good morning. How are you?
Wow, go for it.
Okay, I want to be quick as possible. Two comments. First, to the Bosa guys. At first, I didn't even care what Mane had to say until I bumped into one of the videos when he was talking about how he left DA. I actually liked what he said. EDA is not for blacks. EDA is for Bandabam Club. So, the name, guys, Bosa, Bid1 South Africa, it's very powerful. You guys should believe in it. Make sure it works. People just go out there, guys. Make it different. Number two, to my guy over there. In fact, it doesn't really matter whether it's just the two of you in parliament or it's just a half of you. But there is going to be a voice that is representing South Africans. We cannot land in wrong hands with the A, guys, please.
All right.
Thank you.
Ngobi, thanks. Percy in Limpopo. Percy, keep it short for me. I know you like to give us thesis. Keep it short. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
I'm well. Go for it.
Thanks for intimidation.
You have 10 seconds. You've spent 7 of it already.
No, thanks very much. I think on the smaller parties, one must just indicate that they should be able to really take these matters very seriously. You can't be speaking as if you have been voted by the many. You should be able to advance and be able to get into other parties so that you are also part of it. But if in the manner in which we have gotten this information, it's very, really disappointing that indeed we might have people who are not really ready to be part, issues of objections and all of that. And I think you've tried to want to capture the essence of it. You could not be able to provide. So I'm just saying on smaller parties, just be part of the process and so that you are able to learn and you are able to be part of government.
Okay,
That's
Percy.
the short end, and because I must be shorter today.
All right. Thanks for that contribution, Percy out in Limpopo. 3 words, Nobuntu, quickly, to describe what you're going to be bringing to Parliament. In 3 words, please.
Unity, change, and progress.
Mighty, 3 words. What are you going to be bringing to Parliament?
1 will bring honesty, because South Africans are told
3
lies.
words.
Honesty, unity, and real development.
Failed the test already.
It's an adjective. It's just an adjective.
I said 3. 3. You using sentences and the speaker is going to deal with you in Parliament. It's 11 o'clock, time for the latest news update.
In our top stories, Minister Kotwa appears in court on corruption charges and UN expresses concern over new US asylum restrictions. Good morning. Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kotwa has been arrested. He's appearing before the Palm Ridge Specialized Commercial Crimes Court alongside former EOH Executive Jihan McKay. Kotwa has been charged with the contravention of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act and the Prevention of Organized Crimes Act. It's a Schedule 5 offence, which means the onus rests on the two accused to show that it is in the interest of justice that they be released on bail. The City of Cape Town authorities say flooding has occurred in a number of areas as inclement weather is being experienced across the Western Cape. Areas affected include Kailicha, Guguletu and Nomzamo. The South African Weather Service has also issued a warning for level 2 damaging winds between Cape Point and Cape Agulhas. Disaster Risk Management spokesperson Charlotte Powell.
Disaster risk management officials are monitoring high-risk areas and determining the need for humanitarian and engineering relief where impacts have been reported. The Roads Department is assisting with unblocking roadways and providing milling and sand in some areas. The Electricity Department is dealing with weather-related outages. Downpours are expected to continue throughout the day and assessments on the ground are ongoing as reports come in.
Meanwhile, stormy weather experienced by parts of the Eastern Cape is clearing after flash floods devastated parts of the province. The Nelson Mandela Bay Metro and Buffalo City Municipality was the worst affected, with over 4,000 residents displaced and 10 people left dead. Mop-up operations are now underway. Shedrick Sibia, Acting Director for Safety and Security in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, says they are working hard to revert to pre-flood status.
As Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, we are busy with the mop-up operation. We have been advised that around 10, the weather condition is going to start clearing. And despite the warning that we were given yesterday that we would have a level 6 warning, it has not materialized. And hopefully, because of that, we would be able to actually see that all those people who are affected are back to their normal lives.
Former ANC Deputy Secretary General and veteran leader Cheryl Crowler says the ANC and DA must work together following the national elections, as they are the two parties who received the most votes. Different political parties are holding coalition talks following last week's general elections, as there's no single party that received majority votes. The ANC, for the first time since the 1994 elections, received less than 50% of the votes, losing its majority. Karola says the electorate has spoken and both parties must lead the nation.
I think that the people have spoken, and what the people have said, they've given over 60% of the vote to the ANC and the DA. Now, the ANC members and the DA members might not like it, but that is just the fact. And I think that as the two biggest parties, they have a responsibility. They don't have rights over us. They have responsibility to lead us. We need a government of national unity, and as we did in 1990, when the ANC and the National Party had to find each other and to lead.
Double murder accused Stanley Lishabane is continuing to testify in the Polokwane High Court in Limpopo. He has denied charges that he hired hitmen to kill his wife and a business partner. They were shot and killed in Ladana Industry area in October 2020. Abafani Munyai reports.
Lishabane neither denied or agreed that he gave the vehicle registration number of his wife's car to his co-accused Ndondo Buthelezi, Sfiso Piose and Emmanuel Dlamini. He has told court that he doesn't agree with the police statement that he orchestrated the murder of his wife. He refuted claims that he paid an amount of 5,000 rand to his four co-accused.
Further field, and finally, the United Nations Refugee Agency says it's profoundly concerned by new asylum restrictions President Joe Biden announced for migrants entering the United States illegally from Mexico. The measures will bar entrants from claiming asylum once the daily average exceeds over 2,000. Recapping the top story, Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa has been arrested. He's appearing before the Palm Ridge Specialized Commercial Crimes Court alongside former EOH executive Jihan McKay. For SAFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays 9 a.m. till midday.
On the other side of the coin, what are other people afraid of? If the ANC gets into coalition with the EFF or MK. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Cathy. Interesting topic today. But I think for me, I don't have much to say, but I maybe need you to unpack your opening statement that the ANC and the DA are not so different ideologically. I don't know, Cathy. Maybe if you can unpack that for us. See, I endeavor.
Good morning, Cathy. I don't know why people have a problem with the coalition of ANC and DA. There is no way DA can topple the ANC on top. In 1994, Nelson Mandela formed a government of national unity with National Party. It's 30 years of democracy. There is no way we can go back to apartheid. It's Shotis Nyolen Mafefe Limpopo. Thank you, Cathy.
Hello, Cathy and your guests. I would like to pose my question to both of your guests. I would like to find out that are you guys going to come down on the ground level like you did when you were campaigning for elections since you are in the parliament? And I do understand the fact that you are not in the, or you didn't find the majority seats, and there are less possibilities that you can be on the government. But since you are in the parliament and have the chance to serve the people, are you going to come down again and tell us how far you are and communicate with us here on the ground level and give us the question and our concerns to you guys? Are you going to do that in the near future?
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
9 after 11 o'clock, welcome to the third hour of The Talking Point. A pleasure to have you with us on the show. So you can expect us to continue having more of these conversations with those parties that are going to be represented in the 7th administration of this parliament. I think on Friday we will have those Rise Mzansi, Action SA and another party. So we'll have their representatives on. And it's good for us to get to know these people, right? Because they're the ones that are going to be, driving forces within the National Assembly over the next term of office. That's in the next 5 years. That's, of course, if we are able to form a government and if we don't have to go back to having an election. Is that even a possibility? Would you vote differently if we were to have a rerun of the election? Now that we are here, after the vote? Are people having buyer's remorse? It's buyer's remorse, ne? People having buyer's remorse where you're like, yo, this looked like a good idea at the time, but now I'm not sure anymore. Would you do things differently? Would you vote differently? Those of you that didn't vote, would you show up on voting day? And it's a conversation that we can have. Well, coming up in this hour, we're going to kick it off with speaking to the Black Management Forum. And of course, the Black Management Forum is represented by its managing director, Monde Ndlovu, who is on the line. Monde, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning to your listeners, and thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you as the BMF have issued a statement. You're wishing the incoming government well. Is it not premature? We don't have an incoming government. We should, but we know there will be an incoming government, but it hasn't been constituted yet.
Yes. Of course, we're stating that, affirming that there must be a new government. And whatever decision is going to be taken, a government needs to be formed. Of course, right now, there's no government. There's a lot of conversations happening, a lot of views being expressed. But we are affirming the fact that there needs to be a government in South Africa that needs to be constituted and must have a clear program going forward. So that is the premise of where that particular line you are taking from the statement is coming from.
Monde, something says to me that part of the reason why you issued the statement is that you also wanted your views as an organization that represents the interests of Black business to be registered in these talks, that you have something to say about the current situation.
Yes, definitely, as Black professionals specifically, because we represent Black professionals, and of course we are membership based as well. So we've got a variety of members who affiliate to different political parties. So when we come out and discuss political related issues, we're dealing with it from a principle point of view, number one. Number two, also dealing with it from our mandate perspective, right? So it's important as Black professionals broadly to also come out and register their views. So one of the views in which we think is important not to lose sight nationally is the fact that we've had transformational policies in the country, and those transformational policies need to be of top of mind. So in putting South Africa first, we are adding our voice in putting the country first. We've really got to keep up the conversation and the issues around socioeconomic transformation, and in particular, really trying to deal with poverty, inequality, and unemployment. So that conversation needs to forever be at the top of mind, and especially as Black professionals and what we stand for in the BMF, which is the development of managerial leadership and also driving socioeconomic transformation, and also as the custodians of affirmative action in the country, and also having played a role in the B Act. So we needed to come out to say, in this array of views and viewpoints, as Black professionals, these specific issue around transformation must remain top of mind as we are forming this new government and the agenda of the incoming government.
So does that mean that there is a particular coalition government that you would support?
So again, going back to the principle of how we are constituted, it's important that whichever government is brought into play, that number one, we register our views, which I've just briefly stated. Number two, most importantly, is principled coalition or government of national unity, whichever way it goes, but to highlight the key principles. And I'll just briefly highlight some of the key principles that drive our organization. Number one, the optimum use of the country's human resources. That is one of our key principles as Black professionals in the BMF, that the country must have a clear plan on optimizing its human resources, human capital as a principle in discussion, as a principle in our organization. Number two, equal opportunity, self-development and advancement. A critical principle as well, that the incoming government must drive and ensure that there remains equal opportunity, self-development and advancement. Number three, the establishment of conditions and structures for strong economic growth, right? So at the moment, we are seeing a population growth which is higher than current economic growth. So the structures, the conditions, the macroeconomic environment, there needs to be pay particular attention to that. So that also triggers the conversations on the National Development Plan, etc., that has been there. How are we looking at the macro view in terms of trying to establish conditions for strong economic growth? Number four, a just, non-racial and democratic South Africa as one nation, right? So that remains as a critical principle, that South Africa remains democratic. And in fact, when we're looking at the voter numbers, we have about 58% that have come out and vote. That should also worry everyone in terms of going forward into the country, because you actually want that number to increase. In other words, to deepen democracy, right? To maintain that democratic order, and not only coming out to vote, but the understanding the parliamentary processes, the role of all of us in society, civil society, the role of Black professionals, the role of Black business, the role of established business, etc., in that democratic process. And of course, and there's also NEDLAC as well, that's also there. So understanding that these principles need to remain intact. Principle number 5, an Africa-centered management and leadership perspective, which takes South Africa as a point of departure in relation to the global political economy. Yes. So I'll stop there.
Yeah. Monday, I am going to pause you there. I'm hoping that we'll have a chance to continue with this conversation. I am watching scenes out of the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court this morning, and this is where Zizi Godwa, the Minister for Sports and Arts and Culture, is appearing in connection with his corruption case. Has officially been charged with corruption. I want to take just part of these court proceedings live, and then we'll continue with our discussion in studio.
The only real issue that we have would be the accused's ability to travel abroad. We did not take any chances by not handing in both his passports, and may I recommend that that one of the conditions of bail is that he is entitled to travel abroad if he presents a proper itinerary and the investigating officer and the prosecutor agrees to it. We would be quite happy with that, Your Worship, and that under those circumstances his movements would be monitored by the authorities. Your Worship, lastly, you've seen it in the affidavit. This is pretty much a textbook appearance in court. There was police investigation that was done. Accused was called to present himself for the making of a warning statement a few weeks ago. No high-handed and jackbooted arrest followed. The police and the NPA requested him to surrender himself this morning. He did. He was properly processed, brought straight to court, and here we have, at the first appearance, a proper and a detailed Schedule 5 bail application. In an ideal world, we would like all matters to be dealt with like that. Your Worship, under that circumstances, I believe that it is in the interest of justice for the accused to be released, and I request that that would also be your finding. Thank you. My apologies. There is one very important aspect that I omitted, because I only heard it a short while ago. Understand from the state that investigations are completed, and we will be presented with a copy of the docket this morning already. So there's really no reason why this matter would not be able to start as soon as proper instructions have been taken and the court roll permits it.
Thank you. Mr. Majavu, closing address, sir.
Firstly, Your Worship, a useful starting point is to deal with the law. I submit, Your Worship, that we have discharged the onus that rests on my client as the applicant in the form of an affidavit, which in and of itself is evidence under oath, and it stands before you uncontroverted. Secondly, if one was privy to the charge sheet prior to the drafting of the affidavit, I would have gladly relished an opportunity to say something about the strength of the state's case. To the extent that the charge sheet was handed to me literally across the table by my learned friend, I beg leave of the courts to just say one or two from the bar, because I do believe that it would be an important aspect that should go into the potpourri of factors that the court will consider, notwithstanding our collegial arrangements that the matter is unopposed. I'm one who doesn't like to leave things to chance. I've had my hand beaten a few times with the NP. Your Worship, it is clear that there is reliance to the principle of common purpose, which I can tell you for free has not even been properly pleaded in the charge sheet. However, to the extent that the state seeks to rely on that, I am simply placing on record that they will be hard-pressed to draw the legal nexus on which a common purpose is pegged with reference to the specific provisions of PRECA. I would have dealt with that in my client's affidavit to demonstrate that all there is a carbon copy of what was said in the Zondo Commission. We'll deal with that when we peruse the content, and I'm glad that it will be made available today. I would have been remiss if I don't touch on that. But having said that, Your Worship, we believe that we have covered all the essential averments that need to be made with regard to the lens through which a court determining a bail application under Schedule 5 must deal with. And there's no need for me to rehash those submissions because they stand unopposed before you. The only last issue to deal with, and I'm latching on to what my learned friend has said, if indeed the investigations are complete, then there is little or no reason for any other form of stringent bail conditions apropos the investigation being imperiled may be attached. However, we do not say that the court is not at liberty to impose any other conditions as the court might deem fit. However, to the extent that the court might be, and pardon me for being futuristic, inclined to give a condition with reference to the contact of state witnesses, may be opportune for the state, when he's on his feet, to then say, these are the witnesses that we would like you not to make contact with, because it is no longer a secret, because the investigation is complete and will be given the content of the docket today. If we don't deal with it in that manner, Your Worship, we run the risk of being back here to deal with a possible application for the variation of a bail. And I'm saying it collegially and with respect. That's the one thing. The second thing, Your Worship, you will note that in the bail affidavit, we deliberately state clear of saying anything about the official state passport. That does not belong to my client as of right. He can be removed beyond these proceedings, and therefore, by operation of law, that particular passport must go back to the state and it be destroyed. So we are not being disingenuous when we elected not to say much about it. And of course, with regard to his personal passport, our offer still stands. If the state feels that they need it for whatever reasons, we'll gladly hand it over, provided that in the event he were to be required to travel for personal or whatever means, as a non-flight risk, we believe that he should be entitled to have that opportunity to travel be availed to him. Lastly, and this is on strict instructions, regardless of what you decide, Your Worship, my client has instructed me to firmly place it on record that he does not locate himself above the law. He does not. It is unfortunate because he's a politician, which is a matter of public record, that anything that pertains to his rights is even violated by those who are supposed to protect his rights. It's not for the court to have any ruling to be made on this, but I am under instructions to say, at the first available opportunity, one phone call by Colonel Bujosi, he was raring to go and he went to see Colonel Bujosi earlier than what he would have intended. And lo and behold, out of the goodness of his heart and as a respectable and respectful citizen, his imminent arrest was publicized. Information pertaining to the details regarding the charges was given to the media. I say this because I only, as his legal representative, have sight of it today, literally in court, and it's a carbon copy of what is contained herein. I'm simply asking the court to take judicial notice of that because it does implicate directly on his rights as encapsulated in Section 35. The fact that he's a minister does not denude him of his rights and does not entitle the NPA or anyone for that matter to violate his rights in the manner that had happened. I do not cast aspersions on my colleague in court. He has been anything, absolutely an epitome of professionalism. And I dare say, if all our police were to act like the way Colonel Bujosi did, would live in a better constitutional architecture. He has been very professional in the manner in which he dealt with my client up until his appearance. Culminating in a point that says he is by his own conduct a candidate to be released. And having said that and mindful of the fact that the court, this is a point at which I must shut up because I do believe that I have made the point on behalf of my client. And if the court is so persuaded, I will humbly ask that he be released on 25,000 rands of bail. If there is any other intended conditions that the court is thinking of imposing, I'm ready to deal with those considerations while I'm on my feet. Other than that, Your Worship, I am indebted to the court and my colleagues for the indulgence. I do believe that Mr. Zizi must be sent home.
Thank you.
As the court pleases.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mkhakhave, can I have your closing address, sir?
Yes, please, Court. As indicated earlier, it is an unopposed Your Worship bail application. And the state, the respondent has the following address, Your Worship. I'll firstly start with address in respect of first respondent, Your Worship. I can confirm that there are no pending matters, Your Worship, and the applicant. First applicant, correct.
Thank you.
And that there are no previous convictions in respect of the first applicant. The personal particulars of the applicant, first applicant, has also been confirmed, as is his place of residence, Your Worship. The manner of arrest of the first applicant, Your Worship. The applicant was telephonically contacted around the 15th of May this year, that is 2024, where a warning statement was obtained. He has been in contact, Your Worship, with the investigating officer, with his legal representative, which then eventually culminated in him handing himself over to the police, where he was then arrested this morning, Your Worship. So that would imply that the first applicant, Your Worship, is not a flight risk. I'll then proceed to deal with the provisions of Section 60, subsection 4, in relation, firstly, to the interference either with witnesses and/or investigations. I can confirm and place on record that investigations in this matter have been completed. So there's no fear whatsoever on the part of the respondent or /state that the first applicant, Your Worship, will interfere with other state witnesses and/or investigations. As indicated earlier, investigations have been completed. I can further confirm that the first applicant's 2 passports are currently in the custody and/or possession of the investigating officer, Colonel Bajos, Your Worship. The one aspect that I need to deal with in respect of the first applicant, Your Worship, I can just refer the court as well as my 2 colleagues specifically in respect of Mr. Small-Smith. Your Worship will know that the affidavit have been numbered at the bottom right, and I'm specifically referring to paragraph 1.3.1, which will be on page 2. Which reads as follows: it is open codes and Canadian, which I have handed to the investigating officer today. I request that I be permitted to travel abroad provided I get permission of the investigating officer and/or prosecutor. Your Worship, with regard to the permission of the investigating officer or the prosecutor, Your Worship, I suppose it should just be a bail condition that when either of the accused, but because I'm currently dealing firstly with the first applicant, which is to travel, Your Worship, that should be communicated to the court, and that the court can get an indication with regard to the itinerary, and when that is done to the court, Your Worship, I think it's much more easier, rather than the prosecutor and the investigating officer being involved in this, Your Worship. So I suggest, if the court so wishes, that it be placed as a bail condition that when the first respondent wishes to travel, the court can then be approached with the necessary application and the itinerary. Then the court can then record that on the charge sheet, Your Worship, rather than avoiding a situation where the prosecutor or the investigating officer, Your Worship, will then be involved in granting the accused or the applicant, shall I say, a permission to travel, Your Worship. The other aspect, Your Worship, that I think I needed to touch on, Your Worship, is in relation to the warning statement, Your Worship. It is correct that a warning statement has been obtained in respect of the first applicant, Your Worship. And that will, however, be dealt with at a later stage in respect after the remand of this matter. The quantum that has been suggested by my colleague in respect of the first applicant is 30,000. Respondent has no objection that the quantum, Your Worship, can be fixed if the court grants bail at the requested amount of 30,000. Your Worship. In respect of the first applicant, Your Worship, unless there is any other aspect on which this honourable court wishes to hear me, that will be the address in respect of the first applicant.
Nothing further, thank you.
Nothing further, correct.
Yeah. All right.
I'll deal, Your Worship, with leave of the court, now proceed dealing with the second applicant, Your Worship. Likewise, the second applicant has no pending matter that has been confirmed, and there's no previous convictions. Personal particulars of the second respondent has been confirmed, that is his place of residence. And with regard to the manner of arrest in respect of the second applicant, likewise with the first applicant, the second applicant was telephonically contacted around the 15th of May 2024, where a warning statement, Your Worship, was signed. That would speak to the fact that he has been aware in relation to the investigation and the existence of the matter, firstly. And secondly, the respondent submits that speaks to the fact that the second applicant is also not a flood risk. The respondent has already indicated to this Honourable Court that investigations in this matter are complete. And with regard to the provisions of Section 60, subsection 4 of the Criminal Procedure Act, the respondent has no fear whatsoever that second respondent will either interfere, firstly, with investigations and or with witnesses. Your Worship, the respondent can also confirm that the personal passport of the second respondent is currently in the custody and or possession of the investigating officer, Your Worship. But there are a couple of aspects or issues that has been raised by Mr. Majavu on behalf of the second respondent. And firstly, that will be in relation to the merits of the matter, Your Worship. This is a bail application. I'm not going to dissent, and with the greatest of respect to the merits of the matter, Your Worship, because this is a bail application. With regard to witnesses, Your Worship, my colleague had suggested that the state at least should provide the court with list of witnesses which the state intends to call, so that at least the second respondent can know, and by extension, the first respondent would know who the witnesses are in this matter, Your Worship. Your Worship, indeed, the investigations are complete. Copies of the docket are ready to be provided to the defense. The state, as indicated earlier, has no fear whatsoever that any of the witnesses or either of the applicants before court will interfere with witnesses, Your Worship. If by any chance that arises, Your Worship, that will be dealt with at that particular stage, Your Worship. But there is no fear whatsoever, and that should be re-emphasized, that the respondent has no fear whatsoever that either of the two applicants will interfere with the witnesses. The issue of passport that has been raised by Mr. Majavu, Your Worship, it's already been dealt with. It is the personal passport of the second applicant is currently in possession of the investigating officer, Your Worship. And likewise, the issue of traveling, if he wishes to do so, the second respondent, Your Worship, it would only be appropriate, Your Worship, as I have already indicated with regard to the first respondent, that by extension be applicable to the second respondent, that when the bail condition should then be ordered by the court, that when the second respondent also wishes to travel, the court be approached with the necessary application, with the necessary itinerary, and the court will then make a decision in respect to that particular application, unlike, as indicated earlier, that either the state or the prosecutor or the investigating officer should decide or be advised about the possible traveling abroad of either of the applicants. The last aspect that my colleague, Mr. Majavu, touched on, Your Worship, is the publication of the charge sheet, which in a way would have encroached upon the constitutionally entrenched rights of his client, Your Worship. I have noted that he had indicated hastily that he casts no aspersion in respect of the possible leaking of this document by the state, Your Worship. I can clearly indicate, Your Worship, that I only gave or provided both my colleagues this morning the charge sheet. So as to how, Your Worship, as my colleague indicates, that it landed in the public and obviously in the social media, Your Worship, that is surely beyond the respondent's control and knowledge, Your Worship. That I can categorically state, Your Worship. I've noted, with regard to the quantum that has been suggested in respect of bail by the second applicant, it is 25,000 rands, which is obviously distinct from what the first respondent has suggested, Your Worship. The respondent's submission, Your Worship, in this matter is that bail should not be denied by the fact that it is unaffordable to the applicant. The respondent has no objection in respect of the amount that has been suggested in respect of the second applicant, Your Worship. So the 25,000 rands, Your Worship, is amenable to the respondent, Your Worship. Okay. Your Worship, unless there is any other aspect, Your Worship, with regard to the second respondent that the court wishes to hear me, that will then conclude the state's address, Your Worship, / respondent's address, Your Worship.
Right. The only aspect that I need from the state is the I don't know about the merits of the case. I would expect, if I don't get it from the defense, which is the constitutional right, but section 60 subsection 8, I think capital A, will require me to get something as to what happened, how are they linked, for me to arrive to the conclusion of if it's in the interest of justice that they should be released on bail. So if I can get that information, remember that bail, it's an inquiry, I need to get that information, because without that information, I would not have done my job.
If I might just get clarity from the court. This Honourable Court inquiring from the state that is link between the applicants before court and the commission of the offence.
If you can give me, if you don't want to disclose too much, but I need to know as to what happened on the facts, then I'll be able, because it's not me, it's also the section, if I can read it on record. Let me just get it.
Bishop, I do not have any doubt as to what the court is currently inquiring and with regard to the knowledge by the court of the law. Suffice to say that I can just indicate at this stage.
Yeah.
The charge sheet is attached to the J15, Your Worship, and there are facts in relation to the preamble to the charge sheet, Your Worship. So it is currently common knowledge, Your Worship, and that will be in respect of the preamble to the charge sheet from paragraph 1 until paragraph 12, Your Worship, clearly indicates the basis or the cracks of the charges that are preferred against both applicants before court.
All right, should I read it as it is, or the state does not want to read that part for the record's sake? Then I'll limit myself to paragraph 1 to paragraph 8 of your charge sheet.
It currently forms part of the record, Your Worship. But if the court is amenable that the respondent should read it into the record, Your Worship, I may then proceed doing that.
Please do. Thank you, Mr. Mohlahlana.
Your Worship, I will then proceed. I will dispense the reading of the top portion of the charge sheet, Your Worship, and I will then proceed reading from paragraph 1.
Thank you, sir.
It is the general preamble to the charge sheet, whereas at all relevant times to the charge sheet, point 1, Enterprise Outsourcing Holding is a holding company duly incorporated according to the laws of South Africa with a registration number 1998/0146669/06 and registered address at EOH Business Park, Gilolis View, Osborne Lane in Bedford View. 2. EOH is one of the largest information, communication and technology companies in Africa. And Stephen van Coller is the Group Chief Executive Officer at the time of the commission of the offence, Your Worship. That should be emphasised.
Thank you.
Paragraph 3. Tactical Software System P2R Ltd, in brackets TSS, is a private company duly incorporated according to the laws of the Republic of South Africa with the following registration number: 1997/004051/07. And 4. The directorship of TSS has changed over time and between the period 23rd of October 2012 and the 18th of September 2013. Accused number 1 was the director of TSS. According to the records of the CIPC, on the 6th March 2015, the 5th of March 2017, email correspondence was forwarded to accused 1 as the representative of TSS regarding the notification that the annual returns of the aforementioned periods were due. Point 5. TSS operates in an ABSA bank account with the following account number: 4079003128. The signatories of the said bank account are Daniel Colin Keith McKay and accused 1. Point 6. Accused 1 further operates a personal bank FNB bank account with the following account number: 622333888439, in respect of which he is the sole signatory. 7. Accused 2 is a member of the African National Congress, ANC, in brackets, during the period January 2014 and December 2017. Accused 2 was employed as the national spokesperson of the ANC. 8. Accused 2 operates an ABSA bank account with account number 4079757032, in respect of which he is the sole signatory. 9. State Information Technology Agency, COCT Ltd, in bracket CITA, is a state-owned company charged with the responsibility of IT services to the government, with its registered address as follows: 459 Cita Street, Erasmus Kloof in Pretoria. 10. On a regular basis, CITA invites private entities to a tender process as service providers where CITA does not have the capacity to render the specified IT services. 11. For the period April 2015 to February 2016, accused 2 received the following direct payments and luxury accommodation paid by and or facilitated by accused number 1. Your Worship, that is contained in the schedule. I'm not sure, should I read that or dispense with the reading, Your
I think we're all aware of the schedule contained in the charge sheet.
So we dispense with the reading thereof, Your
Thank you. Dispense with the reading of the schedule.
I'll then proceed reading on paragraph 12, Your
Proceed, sir.
The direct payments and luxury accommodation as set out in paragraph 11 above, paid by or facilitated by accused 1, to and on behalf of accused 2, were gratifications as defined in Section 1 of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act 12 of 2004 for the interventions by accused 2 in a government procurement process to advance the interest of accused number 1, TSS, and EOH. Paragraph 13, Your Worship, 14 and 15 only refers to the legal definitions, firstly in respect of what gratification is, and secondly the definition of unlawful activities in respect of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act 121 of 1998.
Thank you. I think that will suffice for the court. Thank you, Mr. Mohlahlana.
As please the court. Is there any other aspect on which this one?
Thank you.
Please the court.
If there's any reply to the address of the state from the defense, I will allow you to do so.
Your Worship, I'll be brief. It seems as if the only issue here is what do we do in the event that the applicant wants to travel overseas. May I say he's got no plans at the moment. May I also say that my suggestion that the police and the prosecutor has to approve it is because of the fact that their stance on bail is that it's an unopposed application, and you've heard their view on the unlikelihood of the applicant running away, if you excuse the colloquialism. Why I did not recommend that you should have a say on that, man, is because it is going to create unnecessary legal fees and quite a bit of effort for everyone to come down to court in a matter where the police and the prosecutor has already expressed their view. However, you're in charge of the proceedings, and if you would like to monitor from the bench the movements of accused one and accused two, I will have no issue with that. But from a practical point of view, I'm very confident that I can leave the yes or no's in the hands of the police and the prosecutor.
Your Worship, I do have something to say. Firstly, there was merit not said something about the merits. My understanding of the law is that for the court to exercise its discretion, it has to have some semblance of what the issue is about. So the court was spot on when the court asked that question. With respect, it is not open to the state to say we don't want to descend into the merits. Otherwise, on what basis can the court then exercise its judicial discretion? But I'm happy with how the court has dealt with that aspect. I will not belabor it. Safe to say, if we had the charge sheet, we would have quite simply pointed out to the state the error of their ways. We should have weighed heavily in the consideration of whether or not give it to chance just because the state says we're not opposing. And the point is this. My learned friend says to you, paragraphs 14 and 15, don't worry, it just talks to the definitions. But exactly that is the nub of the issue. We are brought here on common purpose. It's a fact. We are brought here on preka. And central to the whole case is the issue or the definition of gratification. And you know what is interesting, Your Worship? You look at what the allegation that has been read into the record is about who paid who and the schedule that we omitted. And my client is described as an ANC official, a spokesperson, not in government, no indication in the preamble as they are required to do by law, not because Majavu says so. What is the nature of the gratification of an unlawful nature from a non-government official? And as a matter of fact, the ANC is not even co-accused here. That is why I refer to it. But that's an issue about which we'll fight in the trial court. But there was moment to that submission. The issue with regard to the suggestion that the court should monitor the movements, with respect, it is unmeritorious. It is going to be an abuse of the already strained judicial resources. In instances where the state says, no, both of them are not flight risks. In fact, they handed themselves over. So on what basis can it be suggested that a court must then be drawn into administrative? I do not leave it, like my learned friend says, in the hands of the court. I strongly submit that the court should stay clear of that arrangement. If one thinks of it practically, we are all practitioners here. When a legally trained person says an application to the court, it presupposes a formal application on notice. Now, and that application must be adjudicated to by a judicial officer. What dispensation in the Criminal Procedure Act makes provision for that? I'm simply saying, in all politeness, that we are overburdening the judicial system. There is absolutely no mischief that can be said to be sought to be avoided by the imposition of that condition. I therefore humbly urge the court to rather, if the court is so inclined, leave it at saying the applicants, certainly on behalf of my client, he must do no more than notifying the investigating officer. He does not have a direct link with the prosecutor for that matter. It is for the investigating officer to liaise with the prosecutor who's managing that particular docket and to say, I intend traveling, here is my itinerary. Ordinarily, the courts don't get involved in those extracurricular arrangements. Why now? Why? I ask rhetorically. So I stand by my submission that if the court is inclined to go in that direction, I didn't even realize that the passport was already handed over. That on its own is a step enough to restrict his movements. Other than that, Your Worship, I stand by my submissions, and I'm glad my learned colleague has clarified the issue about the leakage of the charge sheet. I was not suggesting that it is him. He's a decent fellow. I've known him for many years. But the fact of the matter is the media and other people other than my client have a duplicate of this charge verbatim, and I only got it a few minutes ago as confirmed by him. It is something that we'll deal with outside of this court, but I just needed to place it on record, Your Worship. Those are my submissions as a court pleases.
Thank you.
If I may.
Okay, Mr. Mohlahlana.
Just one aspect, and that is in relation to whether or not both applicants, Your Worship, when intending to travel at a later stage, should then approach the court, or there should be an arrangement between the prosecutor, investigating officer, and any of the clients, Your Worship, or the applicants. For one, Your Worship, I'm not going to monitor the movements of not only these applicants before court or any other accused for that matter, Your Worship. So I'm not going to be involved in relation to that. If the court is inclined to take the view of the defense in relation to that, there must be an arrangement between the investigating officer and the applicant, Your Worship. That may be so, Your Worship, but the respondent is not going to get involved in that. Hence, there was a suggestion that let it be on record, Your Worship, and that it forms part of the bail condition, Your Worship. I understand the legal fees and implications that are involved in bringing an application or for any other appearance, Your Worship. But this respondent, Your Worship, cannot certainly be involved. And I'm glad Mr. Majavu raised this, that the applicant or accused does not have any direct contact with the state, Your Worship. And as a result, if that were to be done, it should be done, if the court is inclined to do that, between the investigating officer, Your Worship, and the accused, Your Worship, /respondent. However, I still suggest that it should be on record, formally in court, so that that can be done on record, Your Worship. That will be the respondent's final address.
Thank you, sir. All right, I will just give an extemporary ruling just to speed up this matter. I'll ask the applicants to rise. The first and the second applicant are standing before this court on charges of corruption, where the amount involved falls under Schedule 5. They are lodging an application for their release on bail. The purpose of this bail is to strike a balance between the interest of society and the liberty of an accused person. In terms of Section 6011B of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977, the accused shall be detained in custody until he or she is dealt with in accordance with the law. The section has shifted the onus that rested on the state in bail applications to the applicants, who has to adduce evidence to prove on a balance of probabilities that the interest of justice permit his release on bail. To consider what is in the interest of justice, the court is guided by the factors listed in Section 60, subsection 4A to E, which are listed as follows: where there is a likelihood that the accused, if released on bail, will endanger the safety of the public or any particular person, or will commit a Schedule 1 offense, or where there is a likelihood that the accused, if released on bail, will attempt to evade his or her trial, or where there is a likelihood that the accused, if released on bail, will attempt to influence or intimidate witnesses, or to conceal or destroy evidence, or where there is a likelihood that the accused, if released on bail, will undermine or jeopardize the objectives or the proper functioning of the criminal justice system, including the bail system, or where, in exceptional circumstances, there is a likelihood that the release of the accused will disturb the public order or security. The court has to weigh the interest of justice against the right of an accused to his or personal freedom, and in particular, the prejudice such accused will suffer if bail is refused. In doing so, the court will be guided by the factors listed in Section 60, subsection 9, that is A to G. Bail is a constitutional right of an applicant. Section 35, subsection 1F of the Constitution provides that everyone who is arrested for allegedly committing an offense has the right to be released from detention if interest of justice permit, subject to reasonable conditions. In the matter of S versus Acheson, 1991, Volume 2, SACR, page 805, and page cited 76 with to J. The in Honorable Nell Court and stated others versus S. that an accused person cannot be kept in detention pending his trial as a form of anticipatory punishment. The presumption in law is that he is innocent until his guilt has been established in a court. The court in a court. The court will therefore... The unreported case number A82 of 2013 of S versus Nguna from Gauteng, North Pretoria, delivered on the 22nd of February 2013, states that a court hearing a bail application should ensure that the strength of the state case and the probability of the conviction, when considered, does not displace the central, namely whether the interest of justice permit release on bail. In Matebula's case, it was stated that the strength of the state case should not displace the central question in any bail application, which is whether or not the interest of justice permit the release of the accused. Now the court will come and deal with the evidence that was presented. I would say that the Act, the Section 6011B, requires that evidence be presented, and it was done so in this matter, where Exhibit A and Exhibit B were considered as evidence and were presented by the applicants. The state did not lead either oral evidence or present documentary evidence in the form of an affidavit. So there was no evidence tendered by the state. However, they addressed court from sidebar, where they addressed the court on their on how they feel that the applicants should be granted bail, and also on the merits of the case. So the court will say that I'm not going to repeat the personal information that has been given to this court covered by Exhibit A and Exhibit B, but the court will state that, yes, it is in the interest of justice. There is no factor that is stated in Section 60, subsection 4 to subsection E that is present in this matter that this court should deny bail. Furthermore, the state is not also opposing this application. And the applicants that are standing before me are figures that are known to the public. That states on its own that they are not flight risk. So on that strength, I will say that the applicants managed to prove on a balance of probabilities that they are candidates for bail, and bail is granted by this court. Now I'll come to the second leg, which is an amount. I'm going to interfere with that one because I see there's disparity coming relating to the amounts. I'm one of the presiding officer. I know that one of the issues that the court should consider is the means of the applicant if you can pay that amount of bail. And this court is of the opinion that the second applicant, if this court can increase the bail to an amount of 30,000, the accused, it will not tantamount accused number 2 of this court of refusing you to be released on bail. Now, the court will make sure that the bail is of the same amount and it's granted in respect of applicant number 1 and number 2 and fixed in an amount as prayed for by applicant number 1 in the amount of 30,000, as well as in respect of applicant number 2, it's fixed an amount of 30,000. Now I'm coming to the condition. The first condition is that first and second applicant make sure that you attend court on every date, time and venue that this matter is postponed to until it's finalized. Remain in attendance until your name is called. If you fail to do so, warrant of arrest will be authorized immediately against you. The bail will be cancelled. Bail money will be forfeited to the state. Secondly, failure to attend court, it is a criminal offense on its own. So if convicted for that, it will be a term of imprisonment or a fine as a sentence. The second aspect I'm going to request is that it pertains to the passports. I agree that the passports which I have been handed to the investigating officer, probably I'm talking about the personal passport, I don't have any issue regarding the one of the state pertaining to applicant number 2, because that one falls away the moment you lose the position. So on the personal passports, they be kept with the IO till finalization of this matter. All the personal passports that you have, applicant 1 and 2. If there is a movement that is warranted outside the country, the IO should be informed of that movement so that the IO can know about your movement. I know I heard Mr. Mohlahlana saying that I don't want to be involved. You know, this thing of having a sole decision to one person, sometimes it's not good. But the NPA should be informed that the applicant intends to move, and then they are notified of the movement. The last aspect, it pertains to the witnesses. That is the last condition. Now, the applicants should not have contact with the state witnesses. I'm going to request Mr. Mohlahlana to provide the list of the witnesses by end of today so that they know who the witnesses are involved, directly or indirectly. So there should be no contact with the state witnesses. Those are my conditions for this bail. The list. You may be seated to applicants. Okay. All right. The date of making this list available will be discussed between the parties involved. I'm talking about the legal representative and the prosecution. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Yes.
The date upon that is leave of this honorable court is the 23rd of July, 23rd July. It is back to court number 10.
23rd of July, court 10.
And the reason for the remand, in the light of the fact that copies of the document will be provided to the defense after this remand, it is for consultation and instructions. I suppose both my colleagues will then confirm the rest of the court in respect to the date. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Small-Smith?
We agreed to that date in advance, and we will collect the copies of the docket now, and hopefully on that day, if all the pre-trial issues have been finalized, we'll be able to postpone for trial.
Thank you.
Your Worship, I confirm the suitability of the date. I also confirm that my friend on behalf of the state has indicated that the investigating officer is in a state of readiness to give us hard copies of the docket again. And on that basis, between now and the next day, we should engage with regard to all pre-hearing matters so that we don't overburden this court unnecessarily.
Thank you.
The docket is made available to all systems.
Thank you.
As a court basis.
Can you please be patient with me? I just want to write the conditions on the charge sheet so that.
And you're listening to Updated Noon at this stage, and just making sure that we keep you abreast of what's happening at the moment. This is, of course, the court appearance of Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Zizi Kodwa, and we are just watching what is happening at the moment. The minister appearing on charges of corruption, and we'll bring you further details, but at the moment we were just listening in to what the judge is saying, listening to some of the conditions that would be applied in terms of the bail application. And Zizi Kodwa is, of course, appearing alongside Jihan McKay, who is the former EOH boss, and he's co-accused in this particular matter. This is, of course, taking place in the Specialized Commercial Crimes Court sitting in the Palm Ridge Court. And so the magistrate is Sharon Soko-Rantau, who is presiding over this case. So just waiting because it just leaves a bit of a lull when the legal representatives are speaking to their clients, as is the case right now, or basically with the magistrate. So we just want to make sure that you know that you are listening to Update at Noon, and we are bringing these proceedings to you live.
Update at Noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at Noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
And as we watch these pictures, there is currently no sound coming through. I think the magistrate don't have a visual on her directly at this stage. Cameras pointed at Minister Zizi Kodwa, and of course the magistrate is just going through some of the documents that were presented to her at this time, and we're just waiting for her to take to the mic once more and say something, at which point we will return you to these proceedings. Magistrate Sharon Soko-Rantau is presiding over this case, and it is a corruption case. Zoleka Kodashe watching this one for us as SABC News, and they are still listening to what is happening, and still only a visual on this case at the moment. So let me take the opportunity to tell you what else we have lined up for you here on Update at Noon, and as soon as we actually have some sound where the magistrate is communicating, we'll take you back there. But of course, watching the court appearance of high-ranking ANC member and Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Zizi Kodwa, accused of corruption to the tune of 1.6 million rand. He's accused of allegedly having accepted a bribe, among other things. So that's where we're at. And as I say, we are monitoring those developments for you. Also, we're going to follow up a very sad story, another one involving children that were killed in Soshanguve. Now, we're going to follow up two Soshanguve girls were burned to death after suspects who allegedly were after the children's father set the shack alight, and the girls aged 4 and 7 who were sleeping when the incident happened were apparently shot and then burnt. So not too sure. As I say, these are the allegations, but we will be speaking to a family member to find out exactly what happened there. Still in the courts, the Senzo trial, that had to be postponed, but in Bloemfontein, convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester and his co-accused, they were in the dock again today. Interesting, Thabo Bester addressing the court, and we're going to take you to that because we actually did clip some of what Thabo Bester had to say to the court this morning. Remember, this is set for pre-trial, and the last time this case was postponed, all of the accused were supposed to come with their legal representatives for today's sitting. But this is what Thabo Bester had to say to the court.
The National Commissioner, Your Honor, has been in charge, or has taken the obligation of being in charge of me as an inmate. And in that, meaning that all my responsibilities or any activities that involves Thabo Bester has a Thabo Bester Act, according to Correctional Services, the way I feel I'm treated. It might not be correct, but that's how I am treated. I'm segregated from everyone for the past 15 months. I have not had access or contact with any human except the EST that sits outside my door. And that's the only people I see. And I feel for my mental health and other issues, it is unfair and is not presenting me in the best ability to be in this court. I also believe that the so-called political swing behind this weight that's tried to deprive me of any right to be able to have a fair defense in this matter is crucial. Your Honor, I shy away not from the fact that in the docket there's a statement that has been produced by the investigating officer who actually apparently has committed suicide, that says that I have said that the former president is the one who orchestrated this escape. And if you read the indictment, it has the former presidential protection unit as a witness, and also the matter of case that I've opened, the investigating officer in that matter is also a witness in this case. So meaning that, Your Honor, I am sitting in a situation where I, as a person, feel that I have no system or any place where else to bring my grievances than this court and myself. Because if I have to bring it before the prison, there's no one available to assist me. The National Commissioner has on public platform said he will address and have a meeting with me. This was 2 months when I got back into this country. And till to this date, I have never seen that person. I've only heard of reports. To continue with this issue is that, Your Honor, I believe that even my presence in this court, I am not brought in this court freely, where I can express myself. If you can look at me, Your Honor, in the way that I am cuffed in a way, Your Honor, that is unhuman for a person that's coming to defend and fight for his own life. Be it or be it not. The Bill of Rights states very clearly that all are to be presumed innocent, and the state has to prove beyond reasonable doubt that I am guilty. I believe that with the carnage of the media and everyone else, that I am not treated fairly or equal in any sense. And I feel that if that is the responsibility or the manner that I will be treated in, I feel that it's unfair, Your Honor, to a fair trial as a person that has an obligation to speak for himself, because there's no one else that's going to do that for me. And I feel that I want to bring these issues to this court so that the court is aware that, first of all, the charge that I am facing involves the actual office that I am under. The correctional services, in whatever story the media that's out here, or even an indictment, is incomplete, Your Honor, without me. And I feel that I am treated this way to be threatened from me being able to express myself or present whatever evidence I can present to show that the so-called alleged whatever charges are incorrect. But in that manner, if this court cannot be able to hear me out, or the court cannot understand from my point of view, because first, Your Honor, I'm a layman in law, but I do understand that I do have the right to speak. So I would like to address the court on the basis of the charges involve so many high-profile people that the Minister and the National Commission of Correctional Services have deprived me from every single privilege that exists. I am under Section 29 of the apartheid government. That is how I am treated at this current moment in this constitution, in this free country. I am treated with 2 hours of family visits for 30 minutes. I am given 1 consultation or 2 if I am lucky. And in that process, I am kept in a hole by myself with no one on site. They have removed the EST people that were outside my door now. I feel that my life is in danger because of the fact that the people that are responsible for this charge, I am under their hands. How can I then be able to defend myself, Your Honor, if the court is not able to give me an ear in whatever issues I may be? The way that I am dressed is an issue. I have been forced to dress as such. I am not dressed. These clothes were bought for a purpose to come to court. I had to spend money to look like this. I have clothes in my bags that have whatever branding. I am not allowed to wear clothes that cost a certain amount. I was told that I can't wear clothes that are Louis Vuitton or whatever because it gives the wrong impression. So I am now being forced to follow laws based on an impression, Your Honor. And this is not just one thing. It's several matters and several issues that lead to one person. And this is one person out of 300,000 inmates in South Africa. I feel that it's unfair. You understand, Your Honor? I feel that I'm out to speak because I'm going to appoint another legal team, and they're going to withdraw again. And I'm going to come back and say, Your Honor, but I have the same problem. I don't have a copy of the docket. I don't know what the docket is. And I feel that the MPA are to give me the docket directly. Because if this is the manner that I'm going to have, I might have to defend myself as a lame person in court and hope and pray that whatever facts I'll present, because I have requested to the head of prison that if I can please have access to a consultation of experts, which means I would like to have a PI or forensic experts to verify if those facts in docket are actually true, because I differ from the version they have. And for me to be able to do that, I need to be allowed for them to come to the prison. But I'm not. I have 2 months left in the time period that I have to serve in CMAX. But I know for a fact that I will not be treated fairly and be released as anyone else. Because
Well, and we apologize for the poor sound quality on that. That was Thabo Bester speaking, addressing the court earlier during his appearance, along with his co-accused, basically lamenting the fact that he is being treated unfairly and everything, trying to outline to the judge what is being done to him and why he feels that his treatment is unfair. He also spoke of the fact that he had, for example, had great difficulty. He had great difficulty in acquiring a legal representation because people do not want to be associated with him. These are members of the legal fraternity. And also, you know, he went to lengths, basically, to get the judge to understand why he did not have legal representation. And hopefully we'll be able to clean that up or get, you know, another feed that is cleaner that we can upload for you on our feed there on our website. We'll podcast it so that you can listen to that, and hopefully we would have been able to clean it up, just get rid of some of that background sound so that it is a cleaner feed.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m.
Now let's go to Soshanguve now, where the community in the north of Pretoria is still reeling from shock after 2 girls aged 4 and 7 were killed over the weekend. And this while 6 other patrons were allegedly shot at a shebeen at the Changing Spot informal settlement in the same area. Gauteng Police spokesperson Mavela Masondo says that investigations will continue to try and trace the suspects. But for more on the story, we join on the line by our reporter Phumzile Phumzile Mlangeni. Phumzile, good afternoon. So please, let's start by just sketching a story about what happened to the two girls. How and potentially if the question of why is being addressed, do the community and their family believe they were killed?
Afternoon, Sakina. Yes, quite a very shocking incident happening not very far, just a few kilometers away from where Deboho Jr. was killed last month, the 5-year-old boy who was killed during a hijacking in Soshanguve. Now here, the informal settlement in Extension 7, the two kids, according to the information that we had, were sleeping at around 8 o'clock in the evening when a man started knocking at the gate and shaking the gate, forcing his way into the house. And apparently he also kept knocking at their door, kicked down their door and asked the little ones where their father was. And this we are being told by the mother, who says that she had gone next door to drop off Stokvel money to the neighbors, and when she was coming back she could hear someone screaming and shouting in their shack, and she turned back because she was fearing for her life, and she suddenly heard gunshots and the kids were screaming, and they suddenly went quiet. When she went to check, the men then came after her and she ran to the next door house, and the men then went on to set the shack alight. And when the neighbors and everyone was trying to come out after the men had gone, it was too late to save the little ones. And that's basically the summary of what we heard from the mother who said that this happened just after 8. Reasons, she says she doesn't know. According to her knowledge, there were no threats prior to the incident. She was not aware of any incidents or any things that could lead to this threat, and saying that even she asked the father of the kids, who said he knows nothing. But also, these very same suspects are also believed to have shot a few people, killing 2 at the nearby Shebeen before moving to the house, because apparently the suspect, according to the people who were at the Shebeen, he said that he was looking for this man who was part of the group or knew the people who were shot at the Shebeen, and he said now he was going to look for him at his home. And that's when he told the kids that since your father is not here, then you will die for his sins. So basically that's the story that we've heard from the mother so far. From the police, they've just said that they're still busy with their investigations, and the man is still at large.
Phumzile, was the mother able to identify the man or any of the people at the Shebeen where the patrons were shot? Were they able to identify this person?
The people who at the Shebeen were able to identify the person, but not willing to talk on record or speak on record on that matter. Obviously, saying that they fear for their lives after what happened. Shocking, 4 people dying in just a matter of hours around the same area. With the mother as well saying that she's not comfortable talking to us about what happened because the matter is under police investigation, and she doesn't want to jeopardize the matter. But she did hint that she knows the person. She knows the person because the man tried to run after her, according to her, and she did indeed see the man, hinted seeing the man, but she didn't want to go into deeper details because she has also been briefed by the police not to talk too much on the matter as they are still investigating. Sakina.
Phumzile, do we know whether the police are following up on that lead? Do we know whether an arrest is imminent? What are they saying in that regard?
Well, the police have, they did release a statement, and so far they say, there's no status update. Nothing has changed so far. But unconfirmed reports, I can say that we've heard from sources that, they did come yesterday. The investigations were continuing. They were talking to the community, and, some members of the community were saying that those who were questioned and called in were told that the man had been arrested, and they were asked to identify. They were shown his pictures, but of course that is what we are getting from the ground, from the police. They have not confirmed anything yet, but the family did confirm that they have been in contact with the police. The office of the Minister of Police did also visit them today. And there were also talks that the minister might also come to the, Soshanguve changing spot where the incident happened in that community, just to assess and also hold a community meeting today. But so far, the minister's office hasn't also reported back. It's just reports that you are getting from the ground and from the people, some of them who were questioned by the police. But so far, no any confirmation from authorities in terms of, arrests made. They still say that they're still hunting and continuing with their investigations.
Phumzile Mlangeni, thanks so much for that update. And please stay tuned to Update at Noon. We will be after the sports report with John Chirika. After the sports bulletin, we'll speak to family spokesperson Klas Mashaba, who we understand is the grandfather to the two girls who were killed. So we will follow up on this story. And also, in case you missed it, Zizi Kotwa and McKay, they were granted 30,000 Rand bail each. Remember, we lost the feed there, but that is the eventual outcome. And we'll bring you up to speed with all of that. Here's Eva Chipa, in fact, with the latest news headlines.
Thank you. With the headlines at 12:30, I am Dino Mutaung. Good afternoon. The Palm Ridge Specialized Commercial Crimes Court has granted Minister Zizi Kodwa and former EOH Executive Jihan McKay bail of 30,000 Rand each. In other news, a police officer from Nsuze Nyenkandla has been arrested in connection with the murder of a sergeant inside the police station. And SACP Politburo member Dr. Alex Mashilo says although they have reservations about certain political parties that may seek to get into a coalition with the ANC, they will not disclose their preferences until engagements with all tripartite alliance members have been concluded. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
For our Wednesday update, we're joined by Simpiwe Letlojane, who's investment strategist at Absa Investments. Good afternoon, Simpiwe.
Afternoon. We are seeing a bit of positivity in the markets today. So the all share is up about 0.2% or so. When we're looking at the different sectors, we're seeing the resources sector leading, so that's up about 1.2%. Of course, rebounding from the series of losses that it has been experiencing over the past couple of days. Yet to date, resources are still in positive territory. However, they are up, by low single digits year to date. And then when you're looking at industrials, they're also moderately in positive territory today. The sector also on a year-to-date basis is in positive territory. And where we are seeing a little bit of pressure is financials. So financials down close to 1% thus far. And of course, on a year-to-date basis, the sector is also slightly under pressure. When we're looking at the exchange rate, we're seeing the Rand that's trading, edging close to that 19 USD ZAR mark. Currently trading around 18.8 rands to the dollar, so slightly weaker in today's trade. Of course, a bit of uncertainty, locally in terms of the, economic and political environment, as we did see, the national election outcome last week, highlighting that we are due to potentially see a coalition government. So still a little bit of uncertainty as there was no majority ruling party, and we are going to receive the final coalition government in about 2 weeks' time. And other economic news, we did see GDP yesterday. GDP did come in surprising negatively, so coming in lower than what markets had anticipated, contracting by 0.1%, whereas markets were anticipating growth of 0.1% over the quarter, and we saw 6 out of the 10 trading sectors in the red, amongst those sectors that contracted being mining and manufacturing, despite improved levels of load shedding during the quarter. I think, headwinds to demand both locally and globally did weigh on those sectors. And then when we're looking at it from a global perspective, just looking at global markets, we are seeing in Europe both the FTSE 100 and the Euro Stoxx 50. Those are in positive territory thus far. And also, of course, on a year-to-date basis, those markets continue to be in positive territory. In Europe, of course, what we'll be paying close attention to tomorrow is the interest rate decision by the ECB. Markets penciling a possibility of a 25 basis point cut by the European Central Bank, which would essentially be the first rate cut that would be seeing by their developed counterparts, so the likes of the US, Eurozone, and UK. And of course, following that cut, all eyes will be on the other regions in terms of their guidance, in terms of when we can see cuts. And what does give the ECB a little bit of room to potentially consider cuts ahead of the other economies is that their inflation is sitting much closer to, the target of 2%. And then in terms of, the US, we did see the US markets, so the S&P 500, closing slightly higher yesterday. We continue to see some activity when we're looking at, the AI space, so artificial intelligence, seeing a couple of the competitors there, so the likes of NVIDIA, Advanced Micro Devices, all launching new AI chips. And we also saw, the likes of Intel also launching a new AI chip, so joining the race, as they have been lagging their peers, especially from a financial performance as well as a share price performance point of view. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simpiwe Letlojane, investment strategist at EPSA Investments.
SAFM Sport with John Gerika.
You know what you just proved?
What?
We are such creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And if anything just goes slightly off, it just throws the whole thing. Now you start looking for things.
I have my own headphones, right, with my own volume control, and nobody uses this section, or this half of the studio. Mm-hmm. And I come in now, and it nearly blew my eardrums to bits.
Yeah, I could see you moving around.
And I'm old and deaf. Yeah, and I got to normally we read off a screen.
But you see, all of us are deaf in this business.
Yeah. And my 2-hour music show doesn't help because I play such good music that, there's smoke coming out of the speakers. All right, sport. World Cup qualifying resumes across the continent today. Central African Republic against Chad. Those are the bottom sides in Group I. More importantly, Namibia against Liberia at 6 o'clock. Namibia have won their opening 2 matches. They're level with Tunisia on just about everything at the top of their group. But the North Africans, Tunisia, play Equatorial Guinea later, which they should win. So Namibia need a win tonight. Sierra Leone take on Djibouti. Neither side have won yet. And Togo take on South Sudan. Both sides looking for their first win. Meanwhile, locally, the promotion playoffs continue in the Premiership. Richards Bay against Pretoria University today. That's a 3 o'clock start. Tuks beat Baroka in the opening match of the playoffs. Some friendlies as well ahead of Euro 24 overseas. Denmark take on Sweden at 7. World number 3, Belgium, take on Montenegro at 8:30. World number 2, France against Luxembourg at 9. France striker Kylian Mbappe seemed to be very happy at the press conference yesterday.
It's a great relief. I'm very happy. I think these are things that are easy to see on the face. As I said, it's something I've always wanted, so I'm very happy. Regarding the end of the season, I certainly didn't play as much. Everyone knows why I played a lot less. But that's the way it is. You have to adapt. There are difficulties to overcome when you're a top player. That's absolutely no excuse for my competition. I'm enjoying myself. We've worked hard physically with the coach and the group, so I'm trying to get back into the best possible shape. My aim is to help the French team go as far as possible in this Euro and, of course, try to take the cup home with me.
Also tonight, 9:30, Spain take on Andorra. Spain looking to move up from world number 8. At Roland Garros today, no Novak Djokovic, but Yasmin Paulini and Elena Rybakina starts things off. Thereafter, the first doubles match on the main court today. Maria Andreeva, who's just 17 years old, comes up against the mighty Arina Sabalenka. 26-year-old Sabalenka's slam record this year reads 11-0. And she hasn't lost a set across those 11 matches. She's found the poor weather the first week a challenge, but she's enjoying the sunshine.
Definitely with the sun you feel more positive. It's been tough last, I don't know how many days with raining, and now we can play with the roof open. People can enjoy watching tennis in the beautiful conditions. And the only difference was it's just a little bit windy, but I was just trying to focus on myself, and I was just trying to do my best on each point.
The late game tonight, Alexander Zverev against Alex de Minaur. Meanwhile, the big news, as you heard, Novak Djokovic is out of the tournament. He was due to face Casper Ruud in a repeat of last year's final, but the Grand Slam, 24 times Grand Slam title defense was abruptly ended by a knee injury. Yannick Sinner will now usurp Djokovic as world number one next week. The Italian goes up against Carlos Alcaraz in tomorrow's semis. Alcaraz had this to say about Djoko pulling out.
Surprise for me that he withdrew of the tournament, but he thought with his team, with the doctor, and tennis is like that. So sometimes you have to deal with it, But I think not having Djokovic in the tournament, it's I'm gonna say frustration for the fans not having one of the best players in the world in the tournament.
T20 World Cup today, India against Ireland, probably the big game. That's at 4:30 today. Papua New Guinea against Uganda at 1:30 tomorrow morning, and Australia start their campaign against Oman at 2:30. Here's their captain, Pat Cummins.
I think if we want to win the World Cup, we probably should be winning games like Oman. You'd hope so. The top 20 sides in the world are here, so they're all going to have good days where they're going to be really tough to beat. But, we want to be right up there. Kind of come finals time, you'd hope we'd be winning those games. I've never played in the West Indies, this is my first time, so don't really know the conditions that well. I imagine there's high volume of games and not too many venues, so sometimes it's hard to produce absolute belting wickets every game, so hopefully a bit more nuance is needed over here.
Some rugby news. Springboks Kerwin Bosch, Apiwe Dianti and Sikumbuzo Noche were the most high-profile names as the Sharks have announced a massive clear-out on Monday. Fly-half Bosch will be moving to second division French side Brive. Dianti is reportedly on his way to Pretoria to join the Bulls, and according to reports, Noche has been linked with a return to the Western Cape. Formula One news. Sergio Perez has signed a new 2-year deal with Red Bull. He'll stay at the Formula One team until the end of 26. Mexican's contract was up for renewal at the end of the season, but the extension will keep him at the World Champs for a 6th campaign. And cycling today, it's the 4th stage of the Criterium de Dauphiné. A 34.5 kilometre individual time trial will reveal the current strength of the contenders. Derek Guy leads. Magnus Cort Nielsen is 3 seconds back. Romain Gregoire is 4 seconds off the pace. So lots is going to happen this afternoon.
This cricket thing. Why do we have? You say the big match.
The big India Ireland's a big game, right?
Wow.
But Papua New Guinea, Uganda,
blowing the lights out.
But I must tell you, I was watching. It was Nepal against Holland yesterday in Dallas. All right. So now think about it. Nepal against Holland. Now Holland is they've beaten South Africa twice, one day international and in the T20. But the entire crowd were Nepalese, or at least Nepalese supporters. They all had the Nepal shirts on. Every time they scored, they just hit the ball. The crowd goes mad. And
I'm happy for them.
It's great for Nepal. And there's maybe, of the 15 players, 10 or 6 or 4 will be world class. And then they will be seen here.
I can't. I start watching like the last 8. I cannot.
I just love the crowd. Like a little block, it goes off to mid-off. They run for one and the crowd.
No, 5 minutes of it is too much. And we play the Netherlands next week, Saturday. When
So we're going to play the Netherlands, our hoodoo team. It's
wow.
Well, they beat us. They beat us in the one day international and in the last 20, which means we didn't get through to the semis and the finals. You see, so you got to be scared.
John.
Don't John me.
Yeah, I can't. Can we start being serious about the tournament? And unfortunately, this is the same thing that's going to happen in so many other sports as well, where you're going to bring in more and more nations to be more inclusive. Great, but the tournament proper doesn't really start until you get to the business end.
Well, we would have said that about Namibia how many years ago? And here are Namibia and Tunisia battling for the top in a World Cup qualifying spot in football. So, don't write off the little boys. The little boys start off little. Holland started off small. Ireland started off small. You have to start somewhere, Sakina.
Yeah,
Midnight to 5 shows on radio.
I just not have to watch that?
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Are you ready to empower yourself with an accredited tertiary qualification? Stadio Higher Education's distance learning programs will set you up for success. Whether you're balancing work and family or you're a school leaver who must work to support yourself and your studies, Stadio offers access to high-quality, affordable qualifications in law, teacher education, commerce, admin and management, policing, and more. Mid-year applications are now open. Visit stadio.ac.za and register today. Stadio, a new vision in higher education.
So, a lady from Air Officini just turned 55, and although I'm still a spring chicken, there's a part of me that envies her, especially since she now qualifies for a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account with capital guaranteed. Talk about FOMI, huh, voice man?
If you mean FOMO, then definitely boss man. And she can earn up to 12.65% interest. Anyone over 55 can open theirs via the Nedbank Money app. Visit our website for more information. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credits provider. T's and C's apply.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two of the most thrilling fighting talents to have emerged from the Mother City in recent years, Tamelo Manyamala and Terrence Bolello, put everything on the line to face each other for the interim flyweight title, which guarantees a shot against the currently unavailable champion, Nekazimulu Zulu, later in the year. Also, Ayanda Zwane and Sibarashe Akonya fight for #1 contendership. EFC 114 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
What do you think the ANC should do? I mean, should it go with the EFF or MK? Should it go in another direction? What do you think should happen next?
It's not so simplistic, Stephen. I don't believe in coalitions. They're like jellyfish. I believe in a government of national unity. I don't think anyone should say any party is irrelevant. All the parties are relevant. They represent South Africans. Politics is the art of the possible, Stephen, and it's about interest. If the ANC went into a coalition with the DA now, the ANC can kiss the local government elections in the next 18 months goodbye.
Dr. Matthews Pauser, of course, have played a very long role in the ANC and in our fight for liberation.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes, 6 to 9 a.m. Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105 FM in Polokwane. Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
14 minutes before 1. As promised, we take you back now to Soshanguve, north of Pretoria, where the entire community is still reeling in shock after two young girls aged 4 and 7 were killed over the weekend. And also patrons were allegedly shot at a shebeen in the Changing Spot informal settlement. Well, we heard from our reporter Phumzile Mlangeni before headline news, and we promised that we would speak to a family member, and we are joined now on the line by a family spokesperson, Klaas Mashaba. Mr. Mashaba, good afternoon and welcome to Updated Noon.
Good afternoon, ma'am, and how are you?
Mr. Mashaba, I am fine, but let me first start by conveying my condolences and that of the entire team, and I would imagine our listeners as well, to you and your family on this very tragic loss that you have suffered.
Okay, ma'am.
Mr. Mashaba, can I just establish, are you related to the two girls who were murdered?
Yes, their mother is my niece.
So you are like the grandfather to these kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mashaba, can you please tell us, with regard to what you have been able to establish as a family, what happened to the two girls?
I was called around 10 o'clock on Sunday. There was an incident at Changing Spot, and then I decided to drive to that place, and then I arrived there at around 12, if I'm not mistaken, because I was preparing myself. And then when I arrived there, I found that the shack there was still smoke coming out of that shack due to the bed that one of the child was lying on. It was still burning. The two kids, the elder one was hiding behind the bed. Apparently, the guy was looking for the parents or the father. And then before he went to that area, to that shack, he went to one of the shacks, tried to shoot one of the guys next to the tavern, only to find that the guy escaped, and then he phoned the father of the two kids, alerting him that the gunman missed me, and then according to him verbally said he's coming to your place. And then by the time the father tried to move to his place, only to find that the gunman was there already. He arrived first. And then the mother could hear the two kids screaming, calling for Mama, Mama. And then there were several bullets that were fired. And then there was silence in the shack. And then he went out and set the shack alight. And then before he continued to exit the gate, he fired warning shot so that everyone should go back to their houses. And then his last word is, and then he went away.
Mr. Mashaba, so where was the mother? Because when she heard the children scream, where exactly was she?
According to them, the couple, the father went for a social, and then when he was still waiting for, it seems they did not want to give him the social money, because apparently the person who participated on that social, it was the lady. He phoned the lady to come and collect the money because they were not prepared to give it to him. So by the time he moved towards that tavern where the social was held, it's when he received a call from a friend that I was missed by several bullets, and then the guy is going to your house.
So the mother, was she close to the shack when all of this was happening? Was she coming back? Was she leaving? What was happening?
They were both going back to the shack because it was an emergency now. That go and collect your kids because that guy is coming for you. When they arrived, they went through the front gate, and then the gunman went through the back gate. He arrived first. Maybe within few minutes, he was able, maybe in 2 minutes' time.
So by the time when he shot the children, both parents had already arrived there.
Yeah, they were standing at the front part. They were using the front entrance, only to find that the guy used the back entrance.
And you said when you got there, there was still a little bit of smoke coming out of the shack. So after shooting the children, he then proceeded to set the shack alight.
Yeah, there was this, what do you call it? In our language, we call it mbaula.
A brazier. Yeah, a brazier.
Yeah, brazier. Yeah. According to them, through the blazer inside the shack. I don't know where he got it, but it was lying next to the 4-year child. The blazer was lying next to the 4-year child.
So what you're saying, the motive seems to have been money. and the suspect was looking for, was it stokvel money, so to speak?
No, according to the neighbors, people who stay around that area, the community monthly, they contribute an amount of 300 rand per check. That money is divided according to them. Certain portion of the money is for electricity, the other one is for water, and then the 50 rand is for protection. So it seems these people are making money. It's a black market. Everybody collect money, and then seems this the group had a splitter group. So they started fighting. They fight over this monthly contribution.
These protection fees, so to speak.
Yeah, they say not. It's like we are rendering service to you. We give you electricity. We give you water. So you need to contribute monthly.
So these are obviously, I would imagine, if the money is not being paid to the municipality, these are illegal connections and the people are paying illegal for this.
The area has got illegal connections, the whole area.
So how are the police handling the case at this time? Have you heard anything from them? Is there any follow-up with regard to the arrest of the suspect?
The suspect is still at large. He's around that area. Somebody told me this morning that the person is at extension 20. They saw him early this morning. And I phoned one of the investigating officers. I gave him the information. They came back to me. They said they will come back to me, but up to so far they did not.
And we will follow up with the police on that one. But how are the parents of the children doing following this heinous crime?
Presently, the person that is close to us is the mother. She cannot cope. Even the newsroom and the SABC people who were around here, she indicated to me that she's tired. She has been through so many interviews. I said, you don't have to appear. You have just to give them information. The father is still busy with something around that area, busy with the councillors on that area.